All right. Hello. Welcome, everyone. Happy Aloha Friday. Thank you so much for joining us during your lunch hour for another virtual brown bag series with the absolutely wonderful Kumi Macdonald from NAMI, talking to us today about something I think that is very relevant to a lot of us and to a lot of us in our community as well, and how to help a loved one with mental illness. So I hope you're as excited as I am to hear what she has to say and sharing her insight. Just before we jump into the material, I wanted to share some logistical information with all of you. We are on a Zoom webinar format. So all of your cameras and microphones are automatically turned off, so don't worry about accidentally turning anything on. It shouldn't happen. We encourage some interaction, right? So there's different features available to you. You have a Q&A box where we encourage you to put any questions that you may have. We will have some time dedicated at the end to be able to address as many as we can. And any ones that we do not get to, we will follow up with answers and information. You also have a chat box feature, which is a way that you're able to interact with each other as well as us as hosts and panelists. So if you send a message to all panelists, then the four of us will be able to see that message. However, if you send a message in the chat box to all panelists and attendees, then everyone who is on the webinar with us today will be able to see that message. We have a couple polls as well, so when we get to that point in the presentation, they should just pop up on your screen. Feel free to participate. I think that makes learning together a little more fun. Oh, one more thing, we are recording, so we will make this recording available to all of you and everyone else who registered as well in a follow-up email, so be on the lookout for that probably early next week. And with all of that, I will pass it on to Danielle, who will introduce our lovely speaker.
Thanks, Amanda. Welcome, everyone. So glad to see you today. Glad you could attend our August Brown Bag Lunch from Mental Health America of Hawaii. And as Amanda said, we're really thrilled to have Kumi Macdonald from NAMI to present how you help a loved one with mental illness. So hopefully today you'll be learning about the warning signs and how to support someone who doesn't want help, understand the importance of communication and empathy by learning what to say and what not to say, and discover programs available to families and individuals with mental health issues through NAMI Hawaii. Kumi Macdonald is the Executive Director of the National Alliance of Mental Illness in Hawaii, NAMI Hawaii, has a background in education, hotel management, and as a director in church ministry. In 2014, she started a new career with NAMI Hawaii and is now serving as executive director, but also as a volunteer family supporter and advocate, sharing her story, instilling hope for others towards recovery. Kumi lives successfully in recovery from depression and anxiety and has family members with mental health conditions. And without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you, Kumi.
Hello, everyone. So can we just start off with a breath? So I'm going to ask you to breathe in slowly 5 and breathe out slowly 5. So let's go. One more time. One more time. Okay, I feel much better. So what I like to say is I am living in recovery from depression and anxiety, although I have family members with mental health issues. So I too struggle. And so I'm asking you for a lot of grace. As COVID hit, there's been a lot of upheaval in my home, in my work, in all areas. And so I ask for a lot of grace as I do my presentation today. And here we go. So anyways, my name is Kumi Macdonald and I am the executive director. I'm going to tell you, I am not an expert. I don't have any initials behind my name. I don't have a degree in mental health, or I don't have a PhD or anything like that. But what I do have is my own personal story. And that's what I'd like to share with you today, is that what happened to me relates to many other people, and hopefully you'll get a nugget of truth today, something that you will be able to apply to your own life. So I live with in recovery from mental health issues, and this is me before and after. So I'm the happy kitty now, but I started my journey with mental health maybe about the age of 9. I remember my first episode of anxiety, and I remember going to my mother and saying, "Mom, I need help." And she told me at the time, way back in the 70s, she said, "You're fine, you'll get over it." And there was some truth to that, because I did go on to live a relatively okay, normal life. Not that I didn't struggle. I struggled tremendously, especially during my preteens and teenage years. And then it got really, really, really bad in my 30s, in my late 30s. And I'll share a little bit about that. But what happened was that, you know, I was struggling with just having my 3rd child. So there was a little bit of postpartum. And then at that time as well, I was struggling with my son, who was a young adult at the time, and he started college. And within a couple of years, he had dropped out. Now, this was my oldest son, who was just brilliant. He got a full ride to UH, and he was doing really well in his school, and he just did amazing work at school. And then all of a sudden in his junior year, he decided to drop out. So he was struggling with his own mental health. He started to shut himself off in his room. He started to have suicidal ideation, and he would just curl up in a ball. And sometimes I would just pray before I opened the door in the morning. I'm like, "Oh, please let him be breathing." And it was a really hard time for me. And so at that time, I was working as a small group ministry director, doing small groups. And small groups is about, like, getting together within your community and doing study groups, learning how to be a better person in your faith, or whatever topic, moms groups, seniors groups, whatever like that. And that's what I was doing it for work. But at that time, my job was in jeopardy because of budget cuts, and they were discussing half of the people are going to get laid off, and they don't know which half yet. But I said, "You know what? I think my job's on the line." And here I am struggling with my son, who's suicidal. I'm struggling with my depression. I'm about to lose my job, and I was really miserable, and I was really depressed. I go into work, and my favorite teacher, who writes a lot of books on small groups and how to do them, and his name was Rick Warren, and he was a New York Times bestseller. He did the inaugural prayer for Obama. He was a spiritual advisor to many high figures. He was major headline news at the time in CNN and ABC, CBS, that his son had died by suicide. And that just really broke me. That just broke me as a mom, because here's my son who's struggling. I'm struggling. And I'm thinking, if this guy, who a bestseller, who knows Obama, who knows all these people, who's got the resources, and his family was devastated by suicide, this is not right. There's something going wrong. So at that time, I said in my heart, like, whatever my next step is, whether I stay in the church ministry or go back to educating or whatever it is, I want to do something for mental health. I want to help families like me, like my son, just, like so many others that I knew who were struggling, but were struggling silently. So what I wanted to talk about is that, this is a journey for me, and I'm just going to share my journey. Like I said, I'm not a professional. I don't have any degrees that are fancy with titles, but I'm just going to share my story. And so it's about mental health, and it's a journey. It's not like a quick fix. It's not when you arrive, you arrive. You're never going to arrive. It's a journey. And so what I wanted to talk about is that mental health affects everyone. And I know that Mental Health America often talks about uh, um, the 4 stages, and I forgot the phrase that you used, but you know, we want to catch it at stage 1, just like cancer has stage 1, 2, 3, 4. But the thing is, in America, because we're so aware of cancer, we try to catch it at stage 1 and 2. And we don't wait until someone is completely inundated with cancer cells, you know, when they're all the way in the red zone. We want to get them when they're green and yellow. And that's the same with mental health. And so what mental health is, it affects everyone, whether you have mental illness or not. And we want to encourage you that this is a journey for everyone, that we're all affected by mental health. So my first poll, I think Amanda's going to help us with that, is if she'll put up the question. The first poll is, you know, how many of us take care of our teeth, right? Do we all take care of our teeth? Yes, we do, right? So it's like, do we practice oral hygiene? So the poll is, do you brush your teeth every day and floss? Well, some people don't floss, but do you brush your teeth every day? So can you submit? Do you do it daily, weekly, monthly, or only when you have a cavity and you need to see a dentist? I think, let's see what people say. And it's kind of the same with our mental health. It's like, do we want to wait until we have to see a psychiatrist and we only take care of our mental health or our cavity or brushing our teeth when we're really, really in the red zone? Or are we going to do it every day? And we want to do it every day so that we stay healthy and we keep up with our oral hygiene as well as our mental hygiene. So I don't know, do we have any results yet? Oh, good. So most of us, 96% of us, say we brush daily. So again, that's the same thing with our mental health, that we want to take care of our mental health on a daily basis. So I want to share with you, what is mental health? And let's see, on my screen. There we go. What is mental health? So mental health, a mental illness, is not just taking care of our mental health. It's not just talking about brushing our teeth every day and flossing every day. Mental illness is when you're really like in that orange or red zone, when it's equivalent to a physical illness. And that's the thing that we have to make really put an emphasis on. It's not something like, well, you're in a bad mood or you're feeling a little sad. It's an actual physical illness, such as depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, all of these illnesses that we know of, but they're equal opportunity. It doesn't matter what race you are, what ethnicity you are, what background you have. It's 1 in 5, it reaches everyone, and it's treatable. And the thing is, I feel like we don't have to be so afraid now. I think a lot of people still think that there's so many horrible side effects and there's so many difficult ways to treat it, but treatment has come a long way. And so hopefully I'll share some of that with you. So, you know what, my mouse is really slow, so I'm gonna go with this button. There we go. Okay, so red flags. These are the red flags that we know when you're in that really, really dangerous red zone. It's when your personality is extremely different, really different. So if you're a really happy person and you're really, really bubbly all the time, and you're really bubbly all the time, that doesn't make you a manic person. It's just you're a bubbly person. And if you're a really melancholy and a kind of a little bit of a Debbie Downer, and that's just your personality, doesn't necessarily mean you're depressed. That's just your personality. But when it becomes a severe change, then that's something we have to be careful of. And when you can't cope with your daily problems or daily activities, I know that for myself, like, I could tell when my mental health was going into the orange or red zone was when it was just a chore just to get out of bed. I remember, and I'm a high functioning person. I'm very, I just love to always be busy and work hard. But when I can't even get out of bed and I barely can get breakfast on the table for my family, or I can barely get in the shower and get to work on time, I know that there's a problem. Strange and grandiose ideas. I know I have a friend who has she has bipolar, and I know that she's the sweetest gal. But when she starts saying, I'm going to give all my money to charity and I'm going to help everybody, the homeless people, every single person on my block, I know she's going into her manic episode. Even though she's still that same sweet person, her grandiose ideas just kind of go off the charts. Excessive anxiety. Again, I've been struggling with a little bit of that since COVID's been happening, even though I've been living pretty well in my recovery from depression and anxiety. I know that sometimes my heart rate goes up, mind starts to race, and sometimes the overthinking and ruminating doesn't stop, and you get a little bit of nervousness and anxiousness in your gut, and you just can't get rid of it. And prolonged depression and anxiety, and we all know about apathy, depression and apathy. So we know what depression is like. Now multiply that by 10. So people often ask me, what is it like to be depressed? And I tell them, do you know, like when you have the flu and you just feel horrible? And let's say your favorite concert comes in and your friend says, I got front row tickets. You've got the flu and you just can't even go. So I always say minus the fever, minus the coughing, minus the sniffles. And that's how I felt. Like you just can't do it. You just physically can't do it. And then you add on that this dark, gloomy sense of hopelessness. So it's like having the flu with the hopelessness. It's a physical illness. It's a mental illness. It's a physical illness. So 1 in 5 adults struggle with mental health in a given year, approximately. And so that means pretty much we know someone in our house right now, or someone in our neighborhood or community that's struggling. And another research says 46% will experience a mental illness during their lifetime. So that means if you are a living human being, it's pretty much 50% of us has experienced something, whether maybe you had an episode of depression when you were young, or maybe you had a panic attack when you were middle-aged, or whatever it might be. So most of us can relate to that. Okay, so I'm going to go now into with talking about how to help somebody with a mental illness. So I don't know why my screen is not working very well, but I'm just going to go on. Responding to the illness. Okay, so this is a real life case that happened to my friends in my church. So there was this girl named Susie. I changed her name. She had cancer, and I'm serious. We did all those things for her. There were people visiting her, sending her cards. I even signed up for the meals. We delivered 2 meals a week for her family. There was prayer. There was a prayer chain. There was a support group that they started because of that. And so there was all these things happening for Susie, okay? At the same time, my friend Carrie, we changed her name as well, she struggled with a mental illness. Now, she didn't receive any of those. No one visited her in the hospital. I sent her an email. I called her up sometimes. That was it. I think our pastor called her up and, sent her a note. Nobody delivered meals, so she didn't get any of these things. And so it's like when you respond to somebody with a mental illness, what would you do if that person had cancer? How would you treat that person? Would you bring them chicken soup? Would you send them a card? Would you send them a text? Check in on them every so often. And so we have to treat people with mental illness just like you would regular illness. And I don't know why it's not. Okay. So I don't know why it's not working. Here we go. Okay, so one-to-one basic care. Basic care is, it's the same with any kind of illness. If someone had cancer, if someone's going through surgery, what would you do? we would learn to recognize that that's a real illness, right? You don't go, well, cancer, I don't know, maybe it's you imagined it. No, we don't say that. It is real. And then we learn and accept, and we assist and help. And so we assist in helping that person get the help they need. So if it's a family member, you may want to take them to the clinics. You may want to learn about how to get them more information and help. We support them in their treatment and recovery, which means, hey, do you need a ride? Do you want me to take you to your therapy? Hey, I know depression is really hard to go and even get out of the house. Can I pick up your medication for you? So I had a friend who was severely depressed and she didn't want to go to a therapist. So I said, hey, could we do a 3-way call, and can I call your doctor for you? And she said, okay. So I helped her make an appointment, and then I drove her down to the clinic and helped her pick up her medication. So sometimes people just need that extra physical and emotional support, attending to the person's basic needs, delivering meals, mowing their lawn, picking up their kids, babysitting, whatever it might be. Offering spiritual support if you're a spiritual person, and then inviting them to go for a walk, like encouraging them to get some sunlight. You know, wear your masks, but hey, let's meet and down the street and let's go for a walk around the block. So just encouraging them, just being alongside someone is super important. So what do you do? This is the big issue. It's like, well, what do you do when someone says, I don't want help. I am not sick. I don't need help. That's the big question. And I think a lot of us as family members have experienced this. Even if you don't have a mental illness in your family, somebody might be struggling with, they're struggling with borderline diabetes, or maybe they have some kind of growth that's growing on their chest and they go, no, I'm not going to the doctor. We know people like that. There are people, whether it's a mental illness or not, that refuse to get help. So this is a really good resource. Again, I'm not a family-to-family teacher. I'm not a NAMI teacher, but this is one of the resources that NAMI Family to Family recommends. It is a #1 bestseller. It's phenomenal. I'll give you some more information about that later on. But what does it basically mean? So it means, this book was written by Dr. Javier Amador. I know it says Xavier, but he pronounces it as Javier. And he had a brother. Now, he's a top-notch psychologist, and he has a brother who refused to get help. And the picture on the book, the cover of the book, was his brother actually running away, saying, I don't need your help. And the reason why they don't want help oftentimes is because of anosognosia, which means it's a lack of insight. So people with mental illness absolutely cannot see their illness. They really think that nothing is wrong. So I'm going to do a little quiz with you folks, and you guys can play along, and we're going to take a poll right after this. But my question is, you see these two geometric shapes stacked on top of each other. If you know this trick, it's a what do you call it, a brain game. It's just a little trick on the eyes and your brain. So I'm not telling you have mental illness if you get the answer wrong. I'm not saying that at all. It's not that. It's just a little brain game illusion that will kind of help you understand the point of anosognosia. So as we see these cubes, you know, there are two different cubes, one on top of each other, right? So the poll is, if you could, Amanda, if you could put that up, the question is, which of these shapes is darker? Could you put that up? Okay, which shape is darker? Is it the top, bottom, or not sure? If you know the answer, just put not sure, okay? Because some people already know this trick, like if you watch a lot of those TV shows, okay? So take a few minutes. So we see this, and we see two shapes. Which one is darker, top, bottom, or not sure? And just play along. It's pretty common sense, right? We're all going to say pretty much the same answer. Okay, so Amanda, do you want to give us our results? Okay, so majority of the people said the top is darker. Correct, right? That's exactly right. So everybody who said the top one is darker, okay, just pretend that you're the person with the mental illness who has anosognosia. Are you sure the top one is darker? And of course you're going to say, yes, I'm sure. I'm going to say, are you sure? Okay, well, look at that. Now we put a little barrier between the two. Can you see that both the top and the bottom are the same color? It's, I know it looks like a, like, look, see, I don't know if you can see it, but it, it, um, it really is. I didn't touch the picture. I just put a little blue thing in the front of it, and it is actually the same exact color. So you can say, no, I'm right. The top one is darker. No, the top one is darker, but in reality it isn't. And we could fight all day long and say, well, it is. And if you are a person with mental illness, you're going to fight it till, your last breath, that, nope, the top one is darker. I know it. But logic says that it really isn't. So that's just an analogy, like a little picture game to kind of get the point across. So just because you didn't get the correct answer, it's just I'm not saying you have mental illness, okay? It's just a game. Okay. So anyways, moving on. The book, I Am Not Sick, I Don't Need Help, teaches you the LEAP method. LEAP, and that acronym stands for listen, empathize, agree, and partner. Now, there's a whole agency that does a training on this, and you can get certified and all of that. And I'm telling you, again, I am not a specialist or a professional in this at all. I'm only telling you what I am learning. And again, I've only been with NAMI for 6 years, so I tell people I'm a first grader. So a first grader doesn't know much, but I know more than an infant, right? Someone who doesn't know anything at all, or they know a little bit more than a preschooler. So as a first grader, I'm teaching preschoolers right now. Okay. So listen is the L. And listening, we think we're listening, but we're really not, right? So how do we listen better? And this is the thing that I'm learning. I haven't mastered it. I have not completely learned how to do this, but I'm, again, a student and I'm learning. But when you have somebody who has a mental illness, no matter how much you try to convince them that the top shade is not darker, they're both the same. No matter how much you say it, no matter how much you argue, they're not going to listen. And so how do we get them to listen? Well, we need to listen first, right? And the reason why we don't often listen is because sometimes we're afraid. We're afraid of how they're acting. We're afraid of that they're going to get worse. We're afraid that if we agree with their delusions, it's going to put them in a worse place. So we got to know our fears, right? So we got to know our fears. We got to know their fears. We also have to make it safe. So when we listen, we're bringing in this safe environment where people who have a mental illness feels, oh, my mom is not attacking me. My mom's not going to argue with me. She's a safe person I can just go to. So that's the thing, is that if you're willing to listen, you're creating a safe space for them, right? And we got to stop pushing our agenda. Even if your kids don't have a mental illness, if you tell your kids, be home at 10, be home at 10, be home at 10, they're going to come home at 11, right? Most teenagers. And I know that I was like that. I remember my mom would say, be home at 10. And you know what I would do? I would wait till 10:05 and then come in the house. I was such a rebellious teenager. But it's like, stop pushing your agenda. It's like, we want to be a place where it's a safe place for them to come and talk to us, right? And then we have to respect what we've heard. And then we're going to find workable problems. And the key point is, remember the headline. So try to listen for the key things that they repeat over and over. So let's say, for instance, someone with psychosis goes, oh, I'm hearing voices. Oh, those voices are so loud. Oh, this person put this chip in my brain. This person put this in the cell phones. This person has bugs in the computer. Oh, the voices are so loud. So the headline is, the voices are so loud, right? Because they repeated it over and over. So those are the things that you want to try to look for as you listen. And the key point is, stop arguing, start listening. And it's so hard because I know I'm a mom, I'm a know-it-all, I'm a educator in my background, so it's hard for me to keep my mouth shut, but keep my mouth shut and just listen. I'm learning. Okay, next one is, so listening, oftentimes we want to react, so you gotta prevent yourself like, you know, you want to say something, but don't say anything. Just listen. Okay, we want to solve problems, but don't be quick to solve the problem. And this is important. Delay giving your opinion. So sometimes they're going to ask you questions like, what do you think, Mom? You think that there are voices, right? Delay giving your opinion. Just listen. I hear you. Mhm. Listen with one goal, to understand. And again, try to listen for the headlines. So reflective listening means to really listen and not react. Do it without commenting, disagreeing, or arguing. Okay, so that's listen. That was the biggest one. I think if we can master listening, that is the biggest obstacle in getting somebody help. Okay, I know it's hard to do. Next one, empathize. So the acronym was listen, empathize, agree, partner, LEAP. So empathize. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of someone else, right? So you want your opinions to be solicited. You want opinions to be solicited and has more weight. And we want to, before I tell you, so this is a thing that you want to do is before I tell you what I think, because they're going to ask you, Mom, you're right. You know I'm right, right? You know that there are people chasing us. You know that they're talking to us. You know they're bugging us, our telephone lines. So before this is how you respond when you empathize. Before I tell you what I think, I want to apologize because I may hurt your feelings or it may be disappointing, right? You could also say, I could be wrong. I don't think I am, but I might be, before you say anything, right? You always say it with, I could be wrong. And then also, and I hope that we can agree to disagree on this. I respect your point of view, and I will not try to talk you out of it. Hope you can respect mine. I think, da 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 da. But again, these are statements that you'll make as you empathize with someone. But the point is that you are listening first. You listen first, right? So the next point is agree. Listen, empathize, agree, partner. So agree is the A, and agreeing is normalize the experience. Is that when someone says, oh, there's ants crawling all over the wall, there's bugs everywhere, there's people listening in on my computers, there's people bugging our phone line, da da da, then you, instead of reacting, instead of arguing, right, we listen. Wow, sounds like, wow, that sounds like a really horrible experience. I would feel the same way if I were in your shoes, right? I would be scared if there were bugs all over my wall, or man, must be hard with all the voices. So again, you're trying to normalize their experience. So you're not saying that what they're saying is accurate. Okay, you're not saying that at all. But what you're saying is, with your empathy, with your listening, you're agreeing that you find a commonality, like saying, hey, I would feel horrible if I was doing this, feeling the same things you were feeling, right? And then correct misconceptions, like when they say, well, you know, yeah, that's why therapists are horrible, da, 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 doctors are terrible, I'm never going to a doctor's. Well, you can gently say, well, yeah, those medications are not all bad. No, medications are not all addictive. So, you know, you can do corrections, but again, you say things like, I could be wrong, but medications are not addictive. Medications can help, right? Also, then agreeing, you use reflective talk, which is reflecting back the highlights. So if I have it right, you're saying that when you stay on medication, you sleep better and you fight less with your family. So it's like they're saying something and you agree with what they say, to reflect back and to agree with what they're saying. And then again, agree to disagree. So And then the last step is partner. And I'll give you an example of how we do this, okay? I know it's hard. There's a whole book on it, and you can read it later. But partnering, LEAP, listen, empathize, agree, partner. And partner's the last step. It's like, what can you partner on? So the main point there again is don't work on the illness. We're always trying to get them into treatment. We're always trying to get them on medication. But don't even start there. We just got to say, hey, let's work about the noises that you're hearing. Let's talk about, hey, how about your sleep issues? How about get back on track, getting a job? So those are the areas you can partner on. And so I'll give you an example of how this would look in real life. So oftentimes we hear people who have paranoia, their parents are calling and saying, my son refuses to get treated. He's very paranoid. He's so scared that medication, everything's poisoned, everything is being bugged, and he's afraid of doctors. He's afraid of going out. So what do I do? So then you listen, have them listen. So you may say something like, wow, tell me what's going on. Oh, I hear noises. I know the neighbor is spying on us. I hear weird sounds coming out of the cell phone, so I know they bugged it. So just listen. Wow, tell me more, right? You listen and you keep listening. And then the next step is empathize. Wow, if that were happening to me, I wouldn't be able to sleep either. Wow, if that was happening to me, I'd be scared. And, then the son would say, yeah, mom, I am scared. So there, you've already built that bridge, right? Listen, empathize, agree. Hey, agree. So you find that commonality. Hey, so do you want some help and maybe figuring out what to do about the noises and the loud talking that you hear? Yeah, that's the worst of it all, mom. I just want to get those voices to stop. So you agree that there is something that he's hearing and that you agree that it's horrible. And then you partner. Hey, what about we talk to someone about quieting those voices? We don't even talk about the illness. Don't even talk about psychiatric medication like that. You just say, let's talk about how we can quiet those voices. Or let's talk about how we can get you to sleep better. Maybe if you slept better, the voices would be quieter. So those are things that you can work on. And oftentimes just getting them to work on that little issue will get them in the door to getting help. So I'll give you a real life example. I have a mother who had anxiety. She still has anxiety, and she had a major stroke, and she was so anxious, and the anxiety caused her so much pain, and she refused to get help. She refused to see a therapist. And so I said, did the listen. Wow, mom, what is stroke? Oh, I don't have a purpose in life. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to go on with this stroke. I'm stuck in bed all the time. There's so much pain. So I listen, empathize. Wow, mom, it must be really hard. Your whole life is turned around. So agree. Yeah, I just can't figure out what to do with my future. I don't know what to do. Oh, mom. So we partner, right? Oh, agree. Agree is, mom, what if we talk to someone about setting goals? That was what we agreed on, and partner. Hey, mom, would it be okay if I made an appointment with a therapist who can help you set goals? And with that, she goes, okay. So she went to a therapist to work on goals. And in that process, she was able to discuss some of her pain and her anxiety associated with it and work on some of those issues. So that's just kind of like a real life example that I've experienced. So how to communicate. One of the things that you want to do is make sure that you always ask that person who's struggling in a crisis, do you want to hurt yourself or someone else? Always ask open-ended questions like, how can I support you? I've noticed, da, 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 da. Tell me about that. So this is another good way to talk to someone who has maybe some mental health issues or maybe being a little depressed. How can I support you? Or I've noticed that you haven't been yourself. I've noticed that you haven't been on our Zoom calls. So those are some good ways to communicate as well. There's some other things you can say to someone who's struggling with a mental health issue, not necessarily who doesn't want help, but just struggling. You can say, I'm here for you. How can I help you? It's often really hard for someone with depression or anxiety to tell you what they want or ask you for help. So when, when I was struggling, sometimes my friends would say, I'm bringing you chicken soup. You want it on Tuesday or Wednesday? That made it really easy for me. I'll say, okay, I'll be home Wednesday. Thank you very much, right? So it kind of made it easier for me that if they said, what can I do for you? Then I'll say, nothing, I'm okay. That's what I probably would have said. But if someone said to me, I'm bringing you chicken soup, let me know what day works for you. That really helped me, and I'll never forget those few friends who have done that for me. Let them know you are not alone. That is our tagline at NAMI, you are not alone. Can I help you make an appointment, right? These are things that you want to avoid saying. You want to avoid saying things like, oh, just pray about it, or you'll get over it. You just need to change your attitude, or you just got to start living. Like I said, it's a medical illness. It's not just being lazy. It's not just being a little sad. It is an illness. And I think some things at the bottom are hidden. So sorry about that. I will give you my slides if you request them. Now, what do you do if you have a crisis happening? So it's a real quick checklist. Again, I'm just going through it really quickly, but maintain a safe distance if somebody's going through a crisis, and especially if they're throwing things or they're physically, violent. Most people are not, but sometimes they actually feel like a bear is attacking them. So they might be, flailing their hands out. So make sure you're safe when you're talking to someone in a crisis. Use clear tones. Lower volumes are always better. Speak in a relaxed tone, non-threatening. Oftentimes we ask, when we train the police officers in this, we encourage them to squat to their level or sit down, take them outside, say, hey, let's sit and talk, so that they don't feel like you're overpowering them. You can set limits and say, hey, if you're yelling and screaming, I can't help you. You can say that, or you need to put that chair down, or I can't help you right now. If you got to put that bat down. I can't help you if you're trying to hit the bear with the bat. So you can set limits. Be active in helping. Use a lot of encouraging things to build hope, and demonstrate confidence and compassion. Again, use I statements. When you're diffusing a crisis, they're going to talk about, oh, because of my ex-wife, and my mother, childhood, and they'll go all the way back to the past. But try to keep it right now, the here and now. Validate and accept them, and don't make promises you can't keep. Recognize that the person may be overwhelmed by sensations, thoughts, sounds. Determine the person's needs for basic needs, such as sometimes they just need a little sugar to balance them out. Sometimes they just need water. Maybe they're dehydrated and that's what's getting them edgy. Be patient, be non-judgmental, and then again, use the LEAP method that I mentioned earlier. These are some of the I statements that might be, there's some examples here. Again, I would say things like, I statements, instead of you are wrong, you are doing this to our family, you always take it back to the I and say, I would like help with the dishes. I'm uncomfortable when you pace in the yard. I feel better if you stop smoking, or I'm hurt when you yell at me. So use I statements. Don't blame people with mental illness and say, you need to be quiet. You need to get treated. You need to get medication. No, it's, I would feel better if you got help. I would feel better if you stopped smoking. That's hard to do. What to do in a psychiatric emergency. If they are cooperative, go to contact their therapist, go to Queens Medical, Adventist Health Castle. There's crisis line, suicide hotline. If they're not cooperative and they're in imminent danger to self or others, you can call 911 and ask for a crisis intervention team officer. They're called CIT officers, and they're specially trained in de-escalating mental health crises. But the most important thing that I've learned as someone who has a loved one with mental illness is practicing self-care. So this is the final thing that I want to leave you with, is that really we got to pay attention, especially with COVID. whether you have mental illness or not, you need to practice self-care, take care of your mind, body, spirit, stay connected in support group, learn as much as you can, treat yourself, meaning I treat myself really good. I give myself hugs, you know, forgive yourself and give yourself grace. So like I asked you for grace this earlier today, when I'm doing this presentation, that, you know, I'm exhausted sometimes and it's okay. Just say it's okay. Give yourself a lot of grace. So this is like my stress bucket. And so what I've noticed is that all these things are going into my stress bucket. I have a teenager at home, COVID-19. My parents are driving me up the wall, you know, taking care of a mom who has had a stroke and her anxiety, other people's stressors that try to dump on me, and I got to set boundaries. The news is really stressful. So you have to, what happens is it starts to overflow, right? So you really need these spigots at the bottom to let out a lot of the water. Otherwise, it's going to overflow with stress. And so these are some of my self-care practices that I do, like support group. I practice a form of yoga. I do my own yoga, and just even doing 5 or 10 minutes, I'm telling you, it's like amazing. Just doing 5 minutes, it just calms me down. And sometimes I'll have to do it 3 or 4 times a day, but that's a really helpful one. I eat my kale, I eat my greens all the time, pray and meditate, stay connected to my spiritual community. I don't go to the beach because it's closed, but I go in the ocean. I go in the ocean several times a week and have a lot of fun. It's so important. So my next poll is, really quickly, before we go to Q&A, if Amanda, you could put the last poll up for us. So did you practice self-care today? So yes, I did do it daily a little, but I could do more. No, but I work on it, not sure. So how many of you have practiced self-care today? Whatever that may be. For some of us, it's listening to music. Some of us, it's starting off with a fruit smoothie or whatever it might be. And if anyone can see me, I have this little bag here and I have my little kit of all my self-care things. I've got my green juice powder, my hand lotion with lemon scent, my aromatherapy, and I breathe. And I have my tea, earplugs. I have a whole bunch of stuff in my little kit, and I always keep it when I'm extra stressed. So I know if you were here at the beginning, we did that breath together. I guess you could say, yes, I did do some of it. So can we see the results, please? Oh, okay, pretty good. 46% of us they do it daily, and I think most of us could do a little bit more. And even me, I do something daily, but I really have to be consistent in order to stay mentally healthy and well. So thank you for taking that poll. This is my son and me last year at my daughter's wedding. As you can see, he did not become a victim of suicide. He did not become a victim of mental illness. He is thriving. He's actually working and helping me in the office 2 days a week at NAMI. He volunteers for NAMI. He helps his community. He was a board member for another nonprofit, and he's just thriving. And again, it's a hard challenge, and not everyone has a success story, and there are days that he struggles. There are days I struggle, but it is a journey, and that we can get over this if we stick together. And so these are some of the resources that NAMI provides, such as support groups. We have education classes, and we have a lot of these things happening online. So contact us if you want more information. We have resources on our NAMI website, including that book, I Am Not Sick, I Don't Need Help. There's a few chapters on there for free. We also have a caregiver's guide that's on there for free. So you can get some of that on our resource page. And there's more information there. Again, I'll send you the slides along with the recording of everyone who registered. And now we have time for some questions.
Hi, Kumi. We have a question and the question's an answer. This one's by Allison. It says, if a family member is struggling with severe mental illness but refuses help or gets upset when suggesting a therapist, what is recommended?
Okay. So again, listen, empathize, agree, partner. Go to our website and get that free download. It's free for a few chapters on communication. So that's one. But the other thing I would say is this worked for my family as another strategy is that me and my husband went and saw a therapist. And we asked him, we told him, this is what's going on with my son. He refuses to leave the house. He's suicidal. Da, da, da. So he said, step one, positive affirmations. Do not say anything negative. Don't criticize, don't correct, nothing. Always positive, positive, positive. Boom, we did that. We go back, report it. Yeah, he's actually smiled a little bit. Great. Next step. Take him out. What does he like to do? Da, 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 da. And then we talk to him. Take him out once a week to his favorite place to eat. Because he'll refuse to do anything else. He doesn't go to school, he doesn't work, he doesn't go see his friends, but he loves to go out to eat. So, okay, we'll do that. That's our assignment. So the therapist helped us work through the steps of helping my son. So that might be a way. And then we eventually said to my son, can you come and help us? So make it about you, make it about me. I need help. I'm struggling with depression. Will you come? Because if you come with me to therapy, I think this will help me. And they might go with you for that. And again, listen, empathize, agree, partner. That seems to be the magic formula. But if you have any further questions, you can always ask me and call me.
We had a question from DC. What if they turn more and more to substance abuse?
Mm-hmm. Again, I'm not a substance use specialist, and I don't really know how to deal with that. But I would say, again, you may want to consult a specialist on that subject. Again, you might want to find your own therapist to talk about that. There's also, I would really, really recommend the family support groups or even Al-Anon, which is, like Alcoholic Anonymous. AA is for the alcoholics. Al-Anon is for the family. And that's what NAMI does. We have support groups for the person with the mental illness, but we also have a support group for the families. So connecting with other families really helps to share ideas, resources, and strategies. So you may want to try that.
Perfect. We actually had one that was emailed in earlier this week. And let me try and pull that one up. While I'm pulling that up, Janice had a question, which is, what would you advise for a family member who suffers from mental illness, but sees that only God can heal, so will not seek professional help?
Okay. So that's a really good question, because I think that's been a lot of people who are in the faith community, whatever faith you are, oftentimes people will spiritualize it. But you have to say again at the very beginning of this presentation, the slide said mental illness is equivalent to a physical illness. So you need to say it's a physical illness. If you had cancer, would you just pray it away? Or would you see a doctor and pray? The question is yes, right? We would see a doctor, the best there is. We take treatment, but we also pray. We also speak spiritual guidance. So that would be a way that you could present it and see if that would help. Also, another strategy that we've used with people in the faith community is go to someone they respect, like maybe their spiritual leader or their spiritual counselor, and educate them about what mental health is. And again, it's an illness. It's not being lazy or it's not lack of faith. It's an illness. There's biochemical things that are happening. It's physiological, and we need to treat it. And then work with a spiritual leader, whether it's a pastor or a priest or whomever, and see if that might be a way to do that. And then also the other way would be to, I forgot my train of thought. If I think of it, I'll let you know.
Perfect. So our emailed question came in earlier this week, and it was about someone who had an adult nephew who is houseless from the past 10 years. He's been diagnosed with schizophrenia. There's possible substance use. Does show up periodically at the house to get support. They've tried talking to him about going to like a community health center, but he doesn't think he needs help. So they were asking like, what are some of the resources and what can they do to help? Help that
So
person.
that's a tricky one, because we know when people get to the point of houselessness, being on the streets, and they've kind of burned all the bridges and all the resources, it's couple of things that other family members have done. I'm not recommending this, but others have done is, sometimes they have to let them hit rock bottom. And I hate this. I totally hate having the justice system involved, but currently, if they're not in danger of self or others, no one can force treatment on someone who's seriously delusional or mentally ill. So sometimes family members have had to allow consequences to happen for them to end up in jail. But once they get into jail, they get treated. And I've heard success stories, but we're working on fixing that with the crisis intervention team, the CIT training that we talked about for the officers. We're also doing a training next month in partnership with Mental Health America. We love you guys. That Mental Health America and NAMI Hawaii are putting on a training in September for the assisted community treatment training, and that will be launched on September 14th. But that is also training family members to get prepared so that when it gets to that crisis, can we get a court order for the community to help this loved one get help? So it's not just like forcing them to get treatment. It's a community partnership where we get the court order to get them treated. And we're going to have more information on that soon, so keep posted. And did I answer the question, Ms. Disa?
Yes, perfectly. Sandy had a question. I know of people who would benefit from this recording. Would it be possible to forward it to them? I can answer that for you, Sandy. Absolutely, this will be available. I'm hoping that we're successful in what we did with the Facebook live stream so that it will be available on our website, but everyone who attends will be getting a link so that they can access this recording afterwards. And then you can absolutely forward that on. Feel free. We will probably also be hosting it onto our YouTube channel. And that way we'll have multiple ways for people to be able to view it.
Yes. And so my final encouragement is that it's the relationships. If anything, what is the key that unlocks helping someone that we love? It's our relationship with them. Are we willing to change what we do and how we respond, and listen and empathize, agree, partner, and really just listen? I think that's the key, is that we have to change our behavior if we want to get help for our loved ones.
Is there any other questions that anyone else has?
My final encouragement is that stay posted, either connect with Mental Health America or NAMI about the upcoming training that's happening in September. And we just have this wonderful friendship and partnership with Mental Health America of Hawaii. And so we're so very grateful that Danielle and Miss Disa, Amanda's been great. Brian, all of you folks, we're so grateful for you all.